How are we doing there, boys and girls? Manthieus here, and welcome back to another video. So quite recently we've looked a lot at the gathering professions, and one of the things that comes up very quickly with the gathering professions is the suggestion to go out there and get some of this luck based gear. I've talked about it a little bit from a logging perspective a few days ago, that stacking luck on your gear is going to give you bigger and better things dropping, arguably more valuable items, and it's something that should be prioritized if you want to optimize your time out gathering. Now, luck is a feature in game that covers a lot of things. You can find luck on many pieces of gear. For example, I have a fancy little pearl amulet here that gives a bonus luck to rare chests and monsters. I equally have a weaver's knot, which is actually a quest reward that has double luck procs on it. 1.9% chance for rare items from chests and monsters twice. Luck is a big part of this game, but it's a little bit more hidden. It's a little bit more behind the scenes. We understand strength and dexterity and intellect and focus and all of those good things because they're numbers that are presented to us. Luck is kind of hidden in the background a little bit. So I wanted to spend a few minutes today to try and hopefully demystify some of the confusion around it. Now, there's one big problem here, is it's hidden so far in the background that we don't know for definite exactly how it works, but it can be somewhat figured out within a reasonable degree. So let's talk about it a little bit today. Before we talk too much about luck, though, what is probably sensible is for me to give you a bit of an overview of how both loot rolls and loot tables work in MMOs. Pretty much everything is based on a dice roll. This goes back to the days of old board game, like tabletop RPG, Dungeons and Dragons style games, where every decision was based on a dice roll. In today's terms, it's random number generators. You kill a mob or you gather an item and a random roll will happen, and dependent on the score of that roll will depend on what item you then get, or more importantly, the rarity of the item that you then get. Often it's not just all based on one single roll, it's based on multiple rolls. You'll have like a qualifying roll to determine the rarity of the item. Then you might have a separate roll to determine the actual piece of loot that drops. You then might have an additional roll once it's decided on the item that drops. You might have a roll to say, right, well, is it going to have dexterity or intellect or strength, or you can have rolls on top of rolls on top of rolls. This is why RNG or random number generators is what RNG actually stands for, are prevalent in MMOs and RPG games. The rarer, the most best in slot items usually tend to be the rarest ones at the same time. But let's look at a little bit of a graph to try and understand this a little bit more so. We're going to revert to our good friend Paint. Let's bring Paint up on screen here. I've made a little bit of a graph to try and emphasize just how this sort of works in most MMOs and in most RPGs. So you roll that dice, right? And it rolls a number. Now, most people think of a dice as having 6 sides. We're going to make the assumption that our dice has 10,000 sides. We're going to pick a random number between 0 and 10,000, and dependent on that number, we're going to pick a rarity of the item. So as we can see from this, if you roll between, I don't know, say 0 and 5,000, you're going to get a common item. There's a smaller chance to get an uncommon item, an even smaller chance to get a rare, an epic, and a legendary, and so forth. Now, this is quite a common way of doing things, and New World takes a similar approach. Although, there's some interesting twists in how New World have decided to do this, which, once again, at first glance are not too obvious, but let's try and break it down. Actually, the way that New World works is a little bit more like this. You'll see some subtle differences here. We still have the red bar, for example, is representative of the dice roll, the possible numbers that can be rolled, still between say 0 and 10,000 for the purpose of our example. But what you'll notice is that there are some numbers that we can't physically get Anything above the 10,000 mark, we might just about be able to get a rare item if we're really lucky. But without stacking luck, we can't push into the epic and the legendary stuff. Now, how does New World present this to us? Well, New World presents this to us in a couple of different ways. If we think about gathering for a minute, let's move this slightly over here. If we think about gathering for a minute, we can take in some consumables. For each of the gathering professions, there is a food-based consumable that increases this luck score, this magic luck score that we don't really get to see at face value. We never know what our actual basic luck score is. But for the purpose of today, I'm going to make an assumption, and I should preface that this is an assumption, that our base luck score is about 1,000 points. We have basically 1,000 points of luck by default, meaning that there's always a slight chance that we can get something rare, but not too much. But what happens when we stack this number? Well, in essence, the core thing that's happening when we stack this luck number is this bar goes up. If we have 1,000 luck points as a minimum, you can now see the bar goes up, and the possible results are more in the favor of the rarer things. And if we stack that luck even higher and give ourselves huge amounts of luck by stacking it on all of our gear, we can push this bar really high to the point where actually we can still get a little bit of everything, but now we start to unlock the epic and the legendary loots because we've stacked enough of the luck. Smart of you out there will also notice though that luck doesn't just represent itself in the game in a numerical value such as plus 1,700, as you can see here for the herb roast cabbage. Occasionally we have pieces of gear, for example, that give us bonus luck on top. This is a bonus percentage, and my understanding of this is that we have the basic luck score, and you can add to that basic luck score through the purpose of consumables. But then to increase your luck even further, it is a percentage of that base score. This is a system that's very often used in MMOs. You have what's known as an additive system. You're directly adding more points, and then you have a multiplicative system where you take the base score and you add a percentage of that base to increase it even further. So your gear, for example, and your tools, these all have percentage-based rarity increments on them. This is designed in a way so that it can't explode out of control too far. It's a little bit easier for the game developers to control just how many stats, often referred to as diminishing returns curves. In MMOs, I know I'm trying to keep the complicated lingo to a minimum here, but trying to represent just what happens when you stack luck. The same thing happens. You roll the dice, but the possible numbers that you can get, you know, the bottom stuff gets chopped off and the bar moves up to push it into a point where you start being able to stack more luck. Now, like I said, a lot of this is hidden behind the scenes. We don't know exact numbers. I'm sure there are people out there that run the sort of the data mining and the database sort of websites out there can probably shed a little bit more light on the exact numerical values that it works in game. But this is the core concept as far as my understanding goes. This is why, if you want to get those epic items and you want to get those legendary items, or you're out doing your gathering, you want to go out and get as much luck gear as possible. Another little thing that's not very well represented for the purpose of gathering is the fact that your gathering skill does actually give a flat rate percentage luck. 0.1 luck percentage per level. So if you max your gathering, if you go out and you chop all of the trees and you mine all of the nodes and get to skill 200, you'll have a flat 20% bonus just sat there ready and waiting at all times before you add your gear on top of it. So I hope this is helpful to you. I hope this, at least in somewhat, helps demystify luck in the game a little bit. It would be nice if Amazon would come out and actually tell us exactly how this works so that we're not left completely in the dark. But this is why you need to stack luck. And the only thing I will add as a final point on this is that there is very much a possibility in many cases that you just physically, without the addition of extra luck on your gear, you physically cannot get certain items to drop. This is most often seen with gathering. If any of you are maxing out your gathering skill, you may notice that you need legendary quality resources to be able to do your daily cooldowns. Now, until you start stacking luck on your gear, you physically cannot get those regardless of how much you try. So there are some breakpoints that need to be achieved, and you need to get a certain amount of luck to even unlock something. But the TLDR to the whole thing is more luck, more better. Stack that luck as high as you can on your gear, and you'll give yourself the best possible opportunity. You'll push this bar up as high as you can and get yourself into a position where you can gather way more effectively and, you know, expand the profitability of your gathering, or even just, you know, killing monsters and chances of getting that bigger, better, shinier bits of gear. But I'll leave it there for today, boys and girls. I hope this video was helpful. Remember to give it a like if you enjoyed it. We focus very heavily on MMO economies on this channel, so make sure you drop a sub if you're enjoying the content. But have a good day, boys and girls. I'll catch you next time. Peace.